we're going to talk about EB-1C, right? I love EB-1C because it is the EB-1 category, meaning it's the best of the best in the business immigration world, right? In the business immigration world, there's EB-1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can undeniably say EB-1 is the best of the best. So there's EB-1A, you're the best filmmaker, you're the best dancer, you're the best of the best in your field. But there's EB-1B and there's EB-1C, which means you are the executive, you're the manager of an international company, and the United States will just give you a green card by virtue of your company and your position in the company. That is awesome. It is amazing. What's super fun about these type of cases is because we get to learn the secrets of every single corporation and industry that we get to touch. So in this case, today's story is about an online education company. It finds teachers and it connects people online to teach them. A Coursera, but for tutoring in the United States. So that's interesting. Somebody can get a green card for doing that. Well, if the company is, I should be very careful in what I say. If the company needs an executive, then yes, the United States will approve this EB-1C green card to allow this company to sponsor their executive or their manager to get a green card. It skips through the EB-2, EB-3 priority dates and the processing and the labor cert. You don't have to test the market, right? You don't have to advertise and say, hey, we need an executive. Does anybody want to apply? Nobody's willing to apply. Okay, fine, we give it to this executive, right? That is for other immigration categories, right? Many, many other immigration categories. If you're on H-1B, you want to get a green card, you have to go through this time-tested dance with the Department of Labor to show we're not harming any U.S. workers. There's no minimum U.S. worker requirement to prove that somebody else could have taken your job. In this case, the Congress, in its wisdom, understands that executives don't need to go through that process because, one, there's a reason why they're an executive. And if you advertise it, nobody could probably do their job anyways. So let them skip the line, just approve it. Now, that sounds wonderful, but it comes down to, well, how do you prove that this company really needs an executive? I could anticipate your rebuttal. Doesn't every company require executive? So USCIS, they have a very special definition of executive and manager. It is not what you fill out on your articles of incorporation saying you're the president, you're a secretary, you're a treasurer. It's not just your business card saying your title, because anybody can have that and any small company can have that. They have unique factors to determine whether or not somebody is truly going to be an executive. They don't even have to be an executive now, right? Because the EB-1C application is saying we need an executive. Please approve it so they can come, so they can perform the role, so we can give them a green card. Well, they need a green card in order to work so they can do it, right? So this case is really interesting because our client was on an H-1 visa, right? Most EB-1Cs, either they're already on an L-1 visa and then they converted to an EB-1C, or for some really big companies, they're working as an executive abroad and they just directly come with their family on an EB-1C green card. But this case, it was very unique for one reason or another. I can't share. They're on an H-1 visa. So H-1 visa, boom, lower tier compared to L-1, right? And it's like we're converting from an H-1 to a EB-1C. We filed this case in December. We got a request for evidence, and the case got approved in January. So I also wanted to share the January stats, right? This is something new that we're doing on all our live shows. We're celebrating January 2025. We've gotten a total of 49 cases approved, and the favorite one is this case, right? So that's what we're sharing, and we're going to talk about. H1 to EB-1C is actually one of my first, right? I mean, I'm sure we've done it before, other attorneys at the firm, but it's one of our first going from H1 to EB-1C. And the beautiful thing about doing EB-1C is that it opens up all the arguments that we could dispose of. One of the hardest things when clients ask me, honestly, is what's the difference between L1 and EB-1C? Like, what's the difference? I could do vague law difference and benefits, but as far as the argumentation and the work, it's actually quite hard. It's actually very much of an art of guessing. L1, you probably do it here, and then EB1C you do here. That sort of thing. And then, understandably, most clients will say, well, why can't you just do this for the EB1, the L1? And I'm like, yeah, I could, but it's just going to be a lot more work and it's going to cost a lot more. That's pretty much it, right? Because it's the same argumentation, but L1s are typically a lot easier to get approved. EB1Cs are typically a lot harder. So EB1Cs, we go all out. And then for clients who are on weak L1 cases, they just say, can you just bring over the big guns and do all the EB1C arguments for the L1s, which sometimes we do, right? So for EB1C, we don't have to hold anything back. Just go all in and argue everything. This is an online tutoring business. Does it need an executive? Doesn't it need just customer service and teachers and just connect people? Can't an app do that? Can't like just Calendly and Zoom solve all those problems, right? You create an app and link people. That's all you're doing. Why do you need an executive? So I guess going back to the definition, USCIS does not recognize first line managers. Generally, they really kind of discourage functional managers as well. They want to see big time managers with a lot of people that they're managing or executives leading the entire company. That's what they really want. We've seen so many requests for evidence on this. We went to so many conferences. That's just the case. Doesn't mean it's impossible if you are a functional manager, but you just really need to go out of your way to prove that. In a separate video, we'll probably go in depth talking about it, but not right now because we didn't do that for this case. And they definitely don't want to see first line managers. But what does it mean to be a first line manager? It just means you're doing the work, right? The way I like to explain to clients is that they want to see you, the executive or the manager, to be in an office, mahogany desk, dreaming and thinking and making plans and letting other people getting the work done. That is the very archaic definition of this philosopher king executive manager. You are coming up with the vision for the company and letting other people do the work. You are paying other people to do the work. So what does a first line manager look like? Think of a store manager. They are literally there managing the employees, doing the customer service. They're doing their opening, their closing, they're signing contract. They're doing all the basic things to get the operation done. You need to escape the operation. The operation needs to run and you need to improve the operation, right? You need to improve the flywheel. You need to come up with dreams for the company and pioneer it and lead it. That's what the executive and what the manager of a big international company should be doing. So because that's what USCIS wants, what are you doing? How are you pushing the company forward? And that's the beautiful part where I love doing these cases, because now I get to sit down with the executives of all of these companies, in this case, an online company, talking about what is the future of education as he sees it for the global world. How is he using this online technology, connecting students and teachers in the United States and across the world, because this international company, it doesn't just do it in the United States. It's actually one of the largest online teaching companies in the world, right? If you based on certain stats, of course. But the U.S. company isn't actually that big. There's just a lot of contractors who are teachers. So we needed to present, well, this is the vision that he's creating for the company. He's a director, he has a high salary, he has a lot of employees around the world. He's connecting them all together, connecting US teachers with other students around the world and in the United States, and he's pioneering this vision. Again, Coursera, but on a personal level. And how he's beating out the competitors. So seeing the executive talk about the vision and the dreams was tremendously fun. And then we take what they say and we build it out. So I'm actually gonna just go through our brief and show you guys exactly what we did, right? Now, first, I just want to tackle the fact that we did get a request for evidence, and it's mainly because USCIS used the vibe system to see, hey, you have multiple addresses, multiple things that they pinged, please explain. We explained it in one page, filed it, and then within a week, the case got approved. So it wasn't a big deal other than it showing up on the vibe system, which is very natural, right? And so I got their CPA to explain everything away, and it was fine. All right, but so now taking a look at the EB-1C brief. We this is where we go into strategy. Again, I just want to explain, not every case is done the same way, but in this case, first 3 pages, we purely focused on the petitioner. We focus on the company, we focus on the industry, we focus on the benefit to the United States, we focus on the weakening of the education system in the US. And in this case, I could argue even more with the Department of Education being slashed, even more people need this kind of extra support online, right? So we did that. We didn't want to put the attention on the individual, which other cases we do, mainly because, again, he's on an H1 visa in the United States as opposed to an L1. So we didn't want to highlight that. So the first 3 pages heavily focused on the industry, why it's so important, very much like an EB2 NIW application, if you know what I'm talking about, right? We're talking about why this industry is so important and why this company is so successful, and again linking it to the foreign company and how it's like one of the largest online education companies, private tutorings in the world with all its affiliates, even though the US isn't that big, but that's what we led with. Then starting from page 4, we focused on the foreign company and what they did and how big they are. Just 1 page, right? Because again, our client is already here on H1, so it's not that big of a focus. Now, with that being said, we then, the next page, page 5, page 6, page 7, we started talking about all of his executive duties abroad, because that's a key requirement for EB-1C. So we went in depth talking about all the individuals that worked underneath him. So 1 manager, 2 manager, 3 manager, 4 manager, 5 managers. So underneath him, there were 5 other managers overseas, and we listed out all their key duties and objectives and their qualifications. So it's like 3 pages of, so in some ways we did 5 other H1 applications or 5 other L1 applications based on their job duty and their qualifications. Okay, so if they are that extraordinary, then of course our client who leads them is even more extraordinary, right? So we use that kind of layering effect. And again, none of these are just ChatGPT generated. Like, it was very specific bullet point talking about the projects that they did, their accomplishments, their degrees, their diplomas, their backgrounds, how long they've been there, etc. So we did that. And then on page 8, we went to examples of their monthly reports and what he was able to achieve. So now, instead of just vague job duties and projects that they accomplished, we actually showed, look at this thing that they were able to accomplish. Because again, online education, what do you really need to do? Well, Uber app, Zoom, what do you really need to do? Lots of things, actually. Most people just don't know. So we open up the lid of the company. Look, in order for these educators to teach, most of them need to be trained. They need to be hired, recruited, trained, and they need to be trained under the particular guidelines and policies of the countries that the students want to immigrate to learn from. So there's so many things that they have to design and prepare in order for this link to just happen. Then we talked about all of their, we did the exact same thing. What is this H1 executive doing in the United States, and what is he going to do once he gets a green card? So again, detailed breakdown of all the people that he's going to supervise in the United States, their job duties, their background, and their accomplishments. And then we end the conclusion, again, very NIW-esque, national interest waiver. We talked about how young children and grade schoolers struggle to find reliable online educational resources. This company fulfills the needs of parents and the students and the teachers across the country. This is critical, this is important. The company has grown, but in order for it to truly make an impact, it needed the executive to come here, to stay here, and to get a green card. And that was the submission, the petition, a really simple RFE, and the case was approved. EB-1C is fun, and the thing that our team really focuses on, and for us, so this is my recommendation for anyone who's working on EB-1C type cases, think Harvard Business Review, think self-help business book, think, if this is an international organization, what is the executive, what is the manager doing to improve this organization? How does this type of company work in the United States normally? How does everybody do it? And what are they doing? What are they pushing that is very different? If all you do is merely explain the industry and you show just mere facts, we have 5 people, we have this many salary, we have this payroll, this is our office location, this is our lease. You leave it to the officer's prejudice and interpretation of what those stats mean. If you just provide these things, like, okay, I have 5 people, are you a manager or are you executive or your first line? How would they know? If you just merely say the conclusion, our client is an executive because he manages 5, you didn't argue, you didn't prove. So go under the hood, open up the company, show how this company is actually operating, show all the strategies that this executive is implementing to try to make this company better than the competitors. That's the work of the executive. And executives are quite busy most of the time. If they could tell you 3 points, your team can make that 3 points into 30 points, right? So dig into Harvard Business Review, dig into all those self-help books, dig into business model generation, and think through how this company can really thrive. And it doesn't matter if the case ultimately fails, but at least you did your best, right? And a lot of times I find when you're going through this learning exercise of trying to make these arguments for the clients, trying to build up their international company by giving them suggestions, one of my favorite things is when the clients see a strategy that they didn't think of before and actually implement it and actually improves their business. So now we are not just their immigration lawyer, we become their in-house consultant, we become their board of directors, and we are able to provide these insights to the companies and actually help them make millions. For the sake of a visa, we ended up getting a board seat. Isn't that super awesome? And again, that is part of the job, right? To do a case well, to make these arguments, and to really think about the business. Or else, what are we doing? Just collecting documents and signing a form? Like any HR person could do that, right? So this is really fun. It's always been one of my favorites to do these kind of business cases, to really think about business. And this case is kicked off a great year in January, right? Got this online executive their green card from a H1. So it was really fun. With that, that ends our success story for today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you. Bye-bye. And that is the wrap of the success story. I'm here to answer questions. If anybody has any from TikTok, from Instagram, from Facebook, from Red, feel free to let me know, and I'll do my best to answer.
We have a question from Red.
Okay.
Can a small business owner with little employees qualify for an EB-1C?
Can a small business owner with very little employees qualify for EB-1C? So the danger there is that by definition, you already ruled yourself out almost, right? So you're a small company with very little employees. On the face of it, that just looks like you're not an executive because you have very few employees and you're small. But to give you the benefit of the doubt, EB-1C looks at a variety of factors. Their goal is to see that you're an executive. So can a small company with very few employees still need an executive? Sure. A company doesn't have to be big in order for you to need to be a really top-notch executive. Think really small SEALs team, CIA team, Warren Buffett's analyst team. These are small teams of exceptionally capable and bright people, and these teams make huge impacts on the world, right? There are plenty of companies and stories in every industry where you show a small team of elite individuals making huge splashes. So, can there be a small company with very few employees that are actually transforming the world, causing you to get an EB-1C? Yeah. So prove it with your tax return. Show how much revenue you're making, how much profit you're making. Or if you are working for big name companies, right? If other big name companies are outsourcing all their major projects to you and your 3 or 4 PhD researchers making huge splashes and winning awards, well, yeah, you could be an EB1C. But conversely, if your employees count just high schoolers, minimum wage, your company is not making any money, you're pretty much just a grocery store, a liquor store, then no, you're not an executive according to the EB1C definition.
She said, "Hey, I'm one of your old client. You helped me get my husband get into the USA after 2 years. He is a green card holder. Till then, we travel back and forth to our country and spend less time in the US. Is it okay to travel to Pakistan this time?"
Oh, wonderful. So say hi, good to see you. Glad you're doing well. Glad you guys got your green card, and now you guys need to travel in and out of the country. And your question is, you're leaving the country for potentially 2 years, or within the 2 years you might be leaving a lot. Is it safe? Well, first, because you're going to Pakistan, really heed the State Department's travel warning, okay? Because that is what CBP officers are looking at first and foremost. Because you already got a green card, you're not really seeing the consulate anymore. You're not really seeing USCIS anymore. The only immigration officer you're really dealing with these days is the CBP officer. And what are they looking at? They're looking at the travel ban and any suspicious activity. So that's first and foremost. Then the second thing to your question, if you're traveling a lot and not really living in the United States, what should you do? Well, the most basic and most important thing is to apply for a reentry permit, right? If you apply for a reentry permit, that is your primary shield to say, hey, I already excused myself. I need to leave for a temporary reason, and that's why I paid the money to U.S. government to get this travel permit. So that's the second thing. The third thing, build up root ties in the United States. So still file tax returns. Hopefully you keep your insurance. Hopefully you keep your retirement. Hopefully you still have a house, a mortgage, a car, different things in the United States. So your ties are still strong. And then abroad, whatever reason it is in Pakistan, keep it as a small reason why you need to be abroad, right? A temporary reason. You're caring for somebody, you're selling something, right? With all that being said, also please don't commit any crimes, right? Because CBP officers have the ability and discretion and power to basically confiscate your green card, even on hearsay evidence that you might have committed a crime. They don't do this often, but they do have that power.
She said we plan to permanently shift to USA after this 3 month travel.
Oh, if 3 months, you're fine. Yeah, a lot of our clients out of the country for 3 years, 6 years, right? It's crazy long, and those require some very detailed strategy. If you're leaving for 3 months, that's just like a long vacation.
Yeah, she said the reason is for inheritance. We need money to buy house here.
That is a perfectly legitimate temporary reason why you need to leave abroad. So, yep, makes sense. You'll be fine. Just heed the travel warning.
Oh, we got another question.
Okay.
I'm currently on an H-1B, but I used to work as an executive for my family's company overseas. Can I still apply for EB-1C?
Yes, but you need to go back to get that executive manager position abroad for 1 year, right? So prior to filing the EB1C, you need to prove that in the past 3 years, at least 1 year was executive. So if you used to be an executive for your family business abroad, and then you came to the US on an H-1B, and then presumably you've been here for several years, or you came here and you studied, and then you got your H-1B, then in the past 3 years, if you cannot show the executive managerial occupation for 1 year, then it's void. You can't do EB1C anymore. That's very important. There's a 2018 memo on this. There's a big case law that fought over it. It's very clear. You have to, in the past 3 years, have that executive duty.
The same client asked, should we still apply for reentry permit for 3 month travel too?
If this is your first time doing a 3 month travel, I wouldn't worry about it. If you plan on coming back after 3 months and you'll stay here permanently, I wouldn't worry about it, because even if they do confiscate the green card, there's a high chance you could potentially get it back through court or through deferred inspection. But if in the past 2 years, 3 years, you consistently leave 3 months, 6 months at a time, And now you're going back for additional 3 months, even though you're saying this is your last time, and you don't have a lot of strong ties. That might be a problem, right? So based on your past, if you rarely ever leave, this time you're just going for a short period, and you're going to be back for a lot longer. I think you're pretty safe in not applying for a reentry permit. But if you really want to be safe, you could always apply for it. It's an extra shield. Who knows? Maybe when you're, if you're over there and then a travel ban hits, another pandemic hits, and you're stuck, well, you'll be very grateful you apply for a reentry permit.
Hi there. U.S. citizen filed I-130 for Moroccan husband over 2 years ago. Still pending. Any suggestions?
U.S. citizen filing a I-130, presumably spouse petition, and it's been pending for 2 years. Any suggestion? 1 to 2 years is pretty much the average processing time that we are seeing for you for a lot of these cases. So it is not completely out of the ordinary. It is on the long side. When it gets to 2.5, 3 years, definitely it is beyond processing. You could always sue the government on a mandamus action. You could always try to push them. You can always get your senator to try to reach out to check if it's really beyond processing time, if they could double check it. But those were my suggestions. No need to hire an attorney to do any of this. You could totally do it yourself. As a U.S. citizen, you pay taxes. The senator is there to serve you. They're not really doing much other than just like sending an email, text, hey, check on this person's case. What's going on? That's all.
NVC sent email saying they sent my fiance visa application to the embassy. What do I have to do next?
Oh, you are on a K visa and you are, NVC already sent it to the embassy and you're saying, what's next? Well, the next step is to wait for the embassy to schedule an appointment. And you go to the appointment, you prepare very well, and hopefully you'll get the K visa, you come into the United States and get married within 90 days and file for adjustment status. But preparing for this interview is critical, 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 critical. Lots of practice in talking. Talk about the relationship, talk about how many times you've seen each other, talk about just the chemistry, the good and the bad, and go through that entire process, right? These officers, to them, 9 out of 10 cases on K visas are all fraudulent, are fake. Um, and so you really want to go above and beyond proving that is absolutely real.
Okay, it's also like 12:50.
Oh, 12:50?
Yeah.
Okay, last few minutes, last 5 minutes.
Okay. I am a U.S. citizen. My wife has DACA. What would be our next step?
Did the DACA wife come into the United States with a visa? If they did, you can file the I-130 and adjustment of status, and you could get her the green card. If she did not, if she crossed the border illegally, then you can apply for advanced parole. She could leave the country, come back in, get admitted, and then you could file the I-130 and 45 and get that case approved. There's obviously a lot of concerns and risks and fear. I totally understand that. We just did a whole bunch of consultations on this. I could tell you we are still seeing advanced paroles getting approved by USCIS. We are still seeing CBP officers admit people who are on DACA on advanced parole. There's a lot of things to do and prepare for. If your wife doesn't have any criminal record, I would still recommend trying. If your wife does have a criminal record, maybe this is not the right time.
Okay. Can my children get green cards through my EB-1C? What if they're about to turn 21?
Can your children get their green card through your EB-1C? So you filed the EB-1C, maybe it got approved already, maybe you're in a priority date. Can they get the green card with you? But they're almost about to age out. Maybe they're already 20 years old. Maybe they're like 19 years old, right? So this is what you need to look into. This is called the CSPA, Child Status Protection Act. It went under a huge transformation the past 2 years. If you are in the United States, you can file for adjustment of status. You can use the new CSPA calculation. We did a lot of videos on this. You could check it out. It is definitely beneficial. If you are overseas and you're getting your EB-1C overseas, then you might want to have your kids be in the United States. You get your green card overseas, come in, and they do adjustment of status. But basically, what I'm saying is the CSPA calculation If they're in the United States, it's better. They have a higher chance of getting it. Check out the requirements. If they're 20 years old, if they're already filed, if you didn't do premium processing or EB-1C, which hopefully you didn't, you have a longer period, you could subtract the time, you might be able to freeze their age. We've done cases where we were able to freeze a kid's age from like 28 years old, 30 years old, back down to 20. It's amazing. It's almost like magic. But check out the new requirements. All right. Well, thank you guys all for watching. It's been a pleasure doing these live sessions. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.